Well, Cavs fans, another comeback win for the Cavaliers, 15 in a row, as they have a 15-game win streak for the second time this season. And Spin and I are here to break it on down for you from Rocket Arena before we get out of here for the night. Appreciate you guys stopping by. Obviously, I'm Spencer German, Spencer Davies, standing next to me. And Spencer, it's funny. Like, every night it seems like it's sort of the same story with this team lately. They fall behind. They were down by as much as 18 against the Nets tonight at one point. They were down by 8 going into the fourth quarter thanks to a Craig Porter Jr. Half-court heave that he knocked down at the buzzer of the third quarter to cut that down to 8 points. And then, when the Cavs need to turn it on in those clutch moments, they find a way to turn it on. We'll talk about Darius Garland here in a little bit. But another one of those games where Cleveland sort of plays with some fire a little bit. They were shorthanded. We need to add the context of that. No DeAndre Hunter, Donovan Mitchell, Ty Jerome. We're all resting tonight. But certainly another one of those games where, this team just can't lose for whatever reason. They flirt with it. They almost try, but they always find a way to eke it out at the end.
Yeah, they're flirting with it right now for sure. And tonight, there is the context of those 3 guys missing.
Yeah.
We can't forget that. And the Nets, they did have D'Angelo Russell last night against the Lakers when they pulled that win out, so we have to say that. But they're playing some really hard basketball. Remember, this is the same Brooklyn team that the first game after the All-Star break gave the Cavs everything they could handle in Brooklyn. The first game after the All-Star break. So they're no slouch. They are going to be a team that doesn't really have the scoring chops to keep up with a lot of teams, but defensively, they have been on their P's and Q's. And Jordy Fernandez, I said it on Twitter, man, the way he uses his timeouts and the way that he's able to kind of calm his guys down and get momentum swings kind of at bay is really impressive. And I think that a lot of these players are buying into what he's selling. So I don't think this is as much about the Cavs not bringing it as much as the Nets having what they have. And their size clearly gave Cleveland a problem tonight because the Cavs are missing a number of their bigger guys. And like a bigger guard like Ty Jerome, obviously DeAndre Hunter, one of their top wings. And the Nets threw out a lineup, which I think the second unit is really who took it to Cleveland tonight. The Day'Ron Sharps of the world. And, you had Cam Thomas going off at the end of the second quarter. They had a lot tonight to give the Cavs. And it took a minute for Cleveland to be able to get those rebounding opportunities and get those chances at the 50-50 balls, but they found a way in the fourth quarter. Like you said, we're going to talk about DG. Got to give a lot of credit to the bigs who kept the Cavs in striking distance, Evan Mobley and Jared Allen in particular. But yeah, it's a find a way team. This is the way that Kenny's described this squad for the last couple of weeks now. They're just find a way. And you think that a coach against these teams that are on the lower part of the standings, he would be mad, but he's not. So I think that is important for the fans to know that if Kenny's not mad and he's understanding of where they are in the season and fighting the quote unquote boredom, then they should probably kind of hear that out too.
Yeah, he said that before the game, and I thought that's kind of interesting. It speaks to that human nature element that we've talked about before, where they're clearly trying to sort of, combat the part of it where you're so far ahead that you sort of fall asleep at the wheel every now and then. But again, I don't think that was necessarily tonight. You bring up them being smaller without the guys that were resting. It was evident at points on the floor where it felt like the Nets were just towering over them with the line.
They had Trendon Watford out there, Noah Clowney,
with Evan Mobley and Jared Allen playing. They still just looked like. So yeah, it was kind of this hodgepodge group for the Cavs. They had to sort of figure it out as they went. And what I thought was important, I think this feels like the place to sort of pivot to talking about DG. He has struggled mightily over the last several games or so. Really over the last couple of weeks. And there's been a lot of questions asked about, is he 100%? Is he okay? What's kind of going on there? Why is he struggling? And, I thought tonight he's been one of the most clutch players in the NBA. When his team needed him, he stepped up. He saw an 8-point game going to the fourth quarter. And really that quarter started with a turnover from Darius. He quickly stole the ball back on an intercepted pass, takes it down the floor, hits a transition 3, and that just sort of starts this barrage for him where he scores 10 of the Cavs' first 14 points in that quarter, and he ended up scoring 18 in the quarter as a whole to finish with 30 for the game. Again, just one of those moments where he sort of recognized the moment, realized hey, Donovan's not out here. I'm going to rise to the occasion. And hopefully it's the thing that kind of gets him back on track.
And isn't it apropos that that's something that Donovan would usually do, right? Like we've seen that from Donovan, recognizing when the team needs that scoring, needs that kind of spark. And DG's the one who provided it tonight. And I thought it started on the defensive end. You mentioned the pass that he intercepted to start off the quarter. I'm looking at when he forced a jump ball on a guy, like coming down the middle of the floor. And then coming down and taking a couple of layups in traffic where his teammates were actually open, but he took it into 2 or 3 guys and went hard at the cup and finished, on a few different occasions. So I think that's really important to see from him. And I think that at the same time, we have to understand that the game is more than scoring and that DG has been very good defensively. He's been himself in transition and finding his teammates and playmaking. He's not turning the ball over. He's just had a shooting slump. And, these are points of the season where it's tough. It's tough to get through. It's that kind of sleepy part of the season. And hopefully this is something that gets him going. But the fact that him and JA looked at each other before that quarter started, said, okay, let's lock in. And they both did it. That's big time.
Yeah, the key for Donovan or Darius, I always do that. The key for Darius at this point is like if he's going to have a slump, fine, have it now, right? Like by the end of March, hopefully he's back on track, and that sort of leads into him being able to have some big games before you come to postseason, which is the most important thing. Yeah, you mentioned Jared Allen. I mean, I don't know how else to really describe it at this point other than like steady Eddie, right? His 36 double-double of the season. He had 23 and 13 boards. Provided a spark on the interior, obviously, for this Cavs team. And even Mobley, like, he played really well, I thought, down the stretch. Like, he had some big spots where he sort of took over and had to sort of make some plays. But those two guys, again, in a supporting role of Darius, who sort of stole the show, finishing with the 30 points, they picked their spots, and they obviously were key contributors as well.
Huge. And it's kind of a tale of two halves. Evan Mobley was the one that was kind of keeping him in it the first half. A lot of the jump hooks, a lot of the stuff in the paint, because the Nets really weren't keying in on him as much. In the second half, they were trying to take away Evan like crazy, just with more ball pressure and trying to push him off his spots. So Jarrett's the one that kind of stepped up with the jump hooks and the kind of close range shots. But it's the offensive rebounds that really set the tone, I think, for Jared Allen, and the way he was able to attack the glass tonight that really, really separated him from the pack. And we talk about this all the time with Jared Allen.
By the way.
Yeah.
Six offensive boards.
There you go. And with Jarrett, I think we have to really discuss how selfless he's been this season. About how many times have we talked about this is the guy that has been an all-star in the past, has been a 20 and 10 guy, 20 and 12 guy always. But for this team, he's kind of just been like, all right, I'll do what you need me to do. I'll set the screens. I'll get the rebounds. I'll outlet. Sorry about that, guys. A little bit of a disconnect, but we were
disconnected from the Wi-Fi before we started.
We barely we're talking about Jared Allen and how selfless he was to not have closed a lot of these games in the last couple of weeks, and how he's not had the high usage that we're used to seeing in the past of being a scorer. And tonight, on a night where Donovan Mitchell's out and a couple of rotational players, very important rotational players, are out, him taking the scoring load and being a cleanup guy was really, really big time for them.
Yeah, no, again, and we've talked about Jared a lot already, this season, just his selflessness. A couple weeks ago, he's missing the fourth quarter of that Celtics game for the most part, not finishing the game in the starting lineup just because of matchups. And that could happen in the playoffs when you have a player that doesn't care like the way that Jared does. I don't mean he doesn't care like he doesn't care about playing. Like, I just mean he doesn't care if you're going to sort of assign him a different role at different times. He's willing to do whatever he's supposed to do in any given situation to help the team win. I want to make that clear. I think people knew what I meant, but just to clarify, that's huge, man. And that again speaks to just this team in general. They're a very selfless group that way, and Jared, I think, is at the forefront of that. So, but yeah, not the prettiest game. There's context to that. Certain guys are missing, but they come out on top yet again. They win their 15 straight. The second time this season they've won 15 games in a row.
Crazy.
Only 6 teams in NBA history, Spence, have ever had multiple 15-game win streaks in a season. The Cavs joined some elite company there.
We're leaving out the elephant in the room. The Cleveland Cavaliers are your Central Division champions, and they're even talking about hanging the banner in the practice facility.
Hey, go get your T-shirts at the bookstore or the team store. The team store. Central Division champs. It doesn't quite carry the same weight as the Cleveland Guardians winning the Central Division.
No Papa
But
Champagne,
hey,
none of that.
It's something. It's something. It is funny because Kenny joked about that after the game. He said, us old school guys, we care about that more than some of the younger generation. That won't be something that a lot of fans put a lot of stock in. What I will tell you, though, is this win does do something important for the Cavs, which clinches home court advantage. I'm pretty sure because the Bucks lost tonight,
It'd be top.
it clinches them to have it for the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. So they're guaranteed home court advantage for the first 2 rounds of the playoffs.
It's huge.
What's remaining, obviously, is locking up that 1 seed and making sure you get it for the entire playoffs. And then maybe beyond that, getting it for the entire postseason tournament if you finish with the best record in the NBA as a whole.
One step at a time.
Yeah.
That's the way I'll look at it, and that's the way I'm sure that they'll look at it. But it's huge. It's huge. This is why the regular season matters. You're building your habits, but you're also positioning yourself for the best possible chance in the playoffs. And we're probably about a month away from it now. It's kind of crazy to think about. But
like around a month, because I think the last game is like April 13th or something like that.
17-something games left, and we're just kind of in that home stretch. So this is also a point, too, of the year. Like, I've kind of mentioned this to you on the post-game shows, and I'm sure that we'll talk about this on the podcast. But if you don't believe that there should be any kind of human element of kind of apathy at this point of the year, then I think you're pretty crazy, because 82 games is a long way, man. And if you're already have proven most of what you want to prove, that you're on the level of the Bostons and the OKCs and all these top tier teams, and you have a month left of the season, and these are still the games that are coming along, what really do they mean at this point?
Yeah.
You gotta still lock in and do the job, but it's hard. It's hard. You can't hit that fast forward button. You have to play the rest of the season out, and it's tough at this point of the year. So for them to still be on this winning streak makes that even more impressive to me.
Well, and I think the key thing, Spence, and we've talked about this a lot already, I know we did it on the podcast last week, is that this doesn't become like your habits, right? Like the slow starts, certain moments where they're lacking some focus maybe, and they're kind of, I don't want to say going through the motions, but it's kind of the mundaneness.
That's fair.
It's the mundaneness of another game when you've dominated everybody and you already kind of have everything locked up. Like, I don't want that to become like the bad habits for this team, and especially right before the playoffs start. So that's the thing you're trying to avoid. But I do think, to your point, what we saw from this team on Sunday speaks to a team that, like, listen, when we know there's a big game and we got to get up for it, like, we'll be fine. A Tuesday night against the Brooklyn Nets, where you got 3 of your main, important players out, you can live with that. You know what I mean? Like, you'll figure it out. So we'll see what Friday looks like, because Friday feels like another big game. It's Memphis still up there in the Western Conference. I know they're not number 2 anymore because the Lakers have sort of taken over that spot, but they're still a force to be reckoned with, a team that you're going to sort of measure yourself against to an extent in the West. And we'll see if they're up for that one and how they kind of play that thing with now, Donovan, Ty Jerome, and DeAndre Hunter getting a night off tonight. They get basically 3 more than that. They get from Sunday to Friday off before they play another game. So I'm sure they'll be well rested and ready to go.
And the thing is, too, they're traveling tonight. They're going down to Tennessee, probably hang out in Darius Garland stomping grounds over in Nashville, probably hang out over at Vandy, see that area of Tennessee before they head over into
That didn't stop them from filling up to Jalen Tyson's car, though.
Oh, sorry about that,
Rookie pranks, man.
Sorry about that,
It's a rough life.
That is tough. That's a tough
you
one
might
to
want to
take
check
on.
your car when we get to the garage.
Man, I'm far from a rookie at this point, Spence. This is going on year number 11, 12, bro.
You're still a rookie to me. Well, you mentioned it's that time of year. You know what else is coming up this time of year?
Oh,
I don't know if people can see behind us.
Do you see what they're setting up?
They are setting up for the MAC tournament. Spence, you got any predictions for your Akron Zips?
Hold my mic.
There it is. He had to do it. The MAC tournament.
Got to get there, baby. Got to get there.
And it should be a lot of fun. Well, I think we're trying to be here Thursday for the game, so we could, that'll be fun. In the meantime, though, we hope that you'll join us tomorrow for an episode of Courtside with the Cavs on SI. Not sure exactly what time yet, but we'll keep you posted on that.
Much more extensive than tonight's post game. I know it was a little bit of abbreviation tonight, but
we're trying to sort of, we're trying to figure out the balance between like talking about the games while also saving some stuff for the podcast.
We could be here until midnight if we wanted to, but we want to save that for you on the
20 minutes, so that's not that long. But anyway, we'll touch on a couple of different things tomorrow on the podcast. We'll let you know what time, but make sure you stay locked in right here. The Cavs on Cleveland Cavaliers on SI YouTube channel, where you can watch that live. It'll also be up on the Twitter account for the page, and check out any of our written content over at Cleveland Cavaliers on SI or si.com/NBA/Cavaliers. I know there's been a couple things that have gone up tonight since the game went final, including some stories about the Cavs winning the division and locking up that key home court for the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. So appreciate you guys stopping on by as always. We hope to catch up with some of you, at least, or hopefully most of you tomorrow with the latest episode of the podcast. But until then, have a great night. Keep on following along with your favorite basketball team with the Cleveland Cavaliers on SI.